In this video, I'm going to explain how I made the decision to go on to hormone therapy, HRT, even though I had a high-risk family background with other family members having had breast cancer. Some people have asked me, as well as clients, to explain my journey as a way of giving you some perspective if you're trying to decide whether you should stay on or off HRT. So behind me is my wall chart, which I want to take you through. Here is the background. I pretty much started with perimenopause symptoms on my 50th birthday. It was crazy. I got a tiny little droplet on my forehead and I decided to ignore it because that was the only symptom, honestly, for years. As life progressed, various symptoms started to arise, things that I'd never had before, like true and utter excruciating toe pain, which is not something I'd ever experienced before, to the point of it being where I couldn't walk. There are other weird symptoms like the feeling of dripping saliva off the side of my mouth, but nothing was coming off there. And then symptoms got a little bit more serious where hot flashes started, a little bit of sleeplessness, but not too much. And then over about 3 or 4 years, the symptoms really progressed. I managed them as best I could. I thought diet, as my belly fat increased, I thought more dieting, more exercise, meeting with a trainer at 4 a.m. in the morning to work out twice as hard. None of this really took care of the symptoms, and I sort of felt a little bit like I was falling apart, but trying to keep everything together, like the little boy with his thumb in the dike in the river, stopping the big leak coming through. I was trying to put all my fingers in this leaky kind of boat at the moment, which was my body responding to changes because of perimenopause and menopause. So it's fair to say that I put up with quite a lot of symptoms for quite a long time. And then it got to the point where it was impacting my daily life, both in terms of sleep, work, perspective, mood, emotions. There wasn't anything really that was working in a balanced way and making me feel grounded. Instead, I was putting on weight and not feeling myself. And to be honest, I used the term with a friend, I really felt like I was going to throw myself away. So that's when I started to really think about hormone therapy. It's fair to say over the years I'd thought about it. I'd often been out with women or at a dinner or somehow having a casual conversation around how HRT may or may not work. Most women said they felt better on it, but they would lean forward to me and say, "Do you have breast cancer in your family?" And when I would say yes, they would lean back out and say, "Well, you can't go on it." Well, at this point, I was getting a little bit desperate after years and years of putting up with trying to sort out supplementing, exercising, therapies to try and deal with my menopause symptoms. But my life seemed like it was getting worse. My body wasn't responding to the usual exercise and diet, and I was a bit lost. I was very lost actually about what to do. So I thought the unthinkable, and despite the background, the family background in breast cancer, I decided to consider hormone replacement therapy. But before I made that momentous decision, I decided to go into the next step, which was basically how was I going to decide? And that was going to be about deciding how much risk I wanted to take versus what the experts were telling me about hormone replacement therapy. So then came the big question around who should I speak to? Because in a previous video and several videos I've talked about, experts, although with the same title, whether it be gynecologist or OBGYN or menopause expert, they all sound like the same title, but their expertise and their experience, their training can vary dramatically and can be very little. So it's worth your while making sure you do reference checking, I mean it. Really find out about your experts before you talk to them. They shouldn't be on a pedestal. They are there to help you. So I decided to talk to four different experts. one that really impressed me from the US, a couple from the UK, and one from from Europe. Now, it's fair to say that most of them, well, in fact, all of them said hormone replacement therapy was possible. They talked about the risks. However, they varied between the four on how much risk they thought I was at, and generally how much risk there was with hormone replacement therapy. So the point to take out of here is that even if you are talking to an expert, you will find within their title, there will be different experts who will vary on some part of, if not all, of how they talk about hormone therapy. As an example here, one expert told me that she thought that progestin, which is available as a synthetic in something called a Mirena, which is inserted as a birth control unit, but you can actually substitute it for progesterone, supposedly, when you are on hormone therapy. Now, one expert said that was possible, and two others said it wasn't possible. And I later, many years found out, actually, while it is possible, progestin in Mirenas is not progesterone. They're different at a molecular level. And in fact, some say that progestin looks more like testosterone than it does progesterone. So these are the things you find out, and you make decisions as best you can at the time. But I went with this one expert because she seemed the most convincing. Her research was very thorough. She did a specific specialized report for me. We looked at statistics around potential risk as I aged for breast cancer and other cancers. And based on her conversation, her report, and then balancing that with the other three, I decided to take the jump. Now, why did I make that jump, and what was that really about? I had, as you know, been enduring symptoms for quite a long time. It's fair to say that they kept going up and up in terms of the impact on my life. Brain fog became a real challenge, particularly for work for a while. I also found my emotions were very tumultuous and I couldn't seem to settle them down. And I was having literally 24/7 hot flashes as well as night sweats all night. It was not a comfortable existence. And so the symptoms were starting to get so significant that I weighed it up against the risk of taking hormone therapy with my family health background and risk profile, that I decided that it came down to quality versus quantity. I wanted a quality life. And so I decided to take the risk and to go on to hormone therapy. So when did I actually start hormone therapy after making this decision, after years and years of trying to cope with my own symptoms and really hesitating about hormone therapy for so long? I researched to find a doctor that specialized, so this is a medical doctor, not a gynecologist, who specialized in menopause as well. I made an appointment with her. The whole process took about a month. I went into the waiting room that day, I still remember it to this moment, and wondered whether I would get a prescription when she found out my risk background. Instead, I had a great conversation. We filled out a questionnaire, and I was given a prescription for estradiol, bioidentical estradiol, and progesterone. She was dead against me having a Mirena to balance the progesterone. And by the way, just in case you don't know, when you are on hormone therapy on the estrogen side, which is typically one of the estrogens, there are three at least, I know there are others. Estradiol is the one that they prescribe because it's the most active and the most present in your body before menopause, and it does most good in terms of brain, muscle, joints, gut. There's lots of benefits to estradiol naturally, but of course I was hesitating about the bioidentical. And irrespective of what you read, bioidentical is still made in a lab by man, although it is based on, usually, some form of natural product like yams, potentially. But you have to really not joke around with yourself. bioidentical in my book at least, and get your own advice obviously from your healthcare professional, is not natural. It will have some limitations. But at this stage I decided to try it. I got the prescription. I didn't have progestin, I had progesterone, and it took another week before I actually after filling the prescription, which I did straight away with the pharmacy, with the drugstore, I waited another week. I was so hesitant about trying it and tried to negotiate my way out. And the night I tried a patch, which is the estradiol, while taking the progesterone tablets, more on that in a minute, I fell into a very deep sleep, the best sleep I'd had literally in years. Now with progesterone, I spoke to the US-based consultant, again, as I said, the gynecologist, and she was all for Mirena and progestin. I wasn't coping very well on progesterone tablets. They were making me lethargic. I felt like I was bloating, but there were no solutions from the medical doctor specializing in menopause. So in a roundabout way, I decided to take estradiol and just trial how the progestin would go through the Mirena. And for years, it was fine. I was checked every year by a gynecologist. We checked the lining of the uterus, which is the main reason you take progesterone. Although, as a postscript, progesterone does a lot more for your body than just keep the lining of your uterus thin when you take hormone therapy. So if you'd like me to do a video on the differences between estradiol or estrogen and all the estrogens and progesterone and what I found out, let me know in the comments below. But ultimately, I went on to hormone therapy. I decided to settle on the Mirena for my progesterone to keep my uterus thin, the lining of my uterus thin, and I seemed to get better and better in terms of my symptoms. My brain fog started to lessen. I slept better. The hot flashes almost disappeared by the end of the week, the first week of being on the patch. And I have to say, I was on hormone therapy happily for 3 years. But the doubt and the cloud around the risk never left me. And so at one point when I was deciding to do some postgraduate study in law, I felt like my brain just wasn't as sharp as it could be. And I had at the same time been reading about nutrition, diet, exercise, and supplements that could potentially help, as well as reading about research on brain cells and brain elasticity. So I can do a video specifically on this, but they were the reasons that I decided to try a different nutritional approach, a different exercise approach, and I dropped pounds around my belly, more so than when I was on hormone therapy than I'd ever done before, within a few weeks. And so that gave me the confidence and the clarity of mind that was starting to come as well, by the way, to decide to roll off my hormone therapy and then go on to study postgraduate bar law subjects without being on any therapy. It was a long journey, and I am very glad to have taken the hormone therapy step. I have to say, looking back now, years on, that hormone therapy gave me the ledge, the kind of safe ground to rest and regroup and regenerate. And looking back, I have to say that although the hormones helped, I actually think getting back to a good night's sleep was the main driver behind my brain fog going away. And it's kind of proven, because when I rolled off HRT and went on to pass all my first year bar exams, I did that without any hormone therapy. And so that to me proved that there are other alternatives. Doesn't mean to say the door is closed on hormone therapy, because one thing you can be sure about as you head towards menopause and through it and then are in it, is that your body is dynamic and will continue to adjust and change. As another postscript you might like to know, that when you are in menopause, when your ovaries have stopped producing the sex hormones that keep everything in balance, your adrenal glands, tiny little glands that sit on top of your kidneys, do actually kick in on producing some of the hormones you need, particularly on progesterone. The challenge there, though, is that adrenals can often be quite tired by the time they get to your menopause, because they also are responsible for the cortisol, which is the stress hormone in your body as well. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a video on adrenals and how they kick in menopause, and anything else. If you have any questions around my HRT journey, how I rolled off, if you'd like to hear more about the nutrition and the movement and the supplements, and also the research I did on cells and on brain that's out there for anybody to read, that gave me the courage to actually go on and roll off my hormone therapy. If you'd like more tips like this that are secret and don't always make it to YouTube, then click on the link below to join my newsletter.